So today we're going to talk about why I personally think recording studios are a waste of money for musicians and why they should stop going to them, and my alternative option, what I think that they should do. All right, Bullet, I love you. See you later, buddy. I'll see you later, okay? Bye-bye. You a good boy. Watch the house, okay? What an interesting morning it has been. So remember actually it was exactly 2 weeks ago because I just looked at the receipt. When I was having all those audio issues where I wasn't able to get the audio from my MacBook, my Mac Mini to my MacBook Pro, and I was just like all frustrated and ended up having to go to Best Buy, and the Best Buy guy was super helpful. Turns out that the program that I use usually for that is back working again. So I went to go check last night, like when I bought that thing from Best Buy, and it turns out it was exactly today, 14 years ago. So I'm like, 14 days ago, perfectly within the return policy. So I was going to go return it today. And from that, I was like, wait, how do I actually get the audio from my Mac to my other Mac? And I spent like a half an hour because I couldn't remember how I had it set up originally. So you guys know that stuff always stresses me out. So I finally figured it out. So I am, I also bought an ND filter for my camera so that I can adjust darkness and stuff. I bought a bunch of them because I bought one and the size didn't fit, so I bought 3 other sizes and then I could return them so that I didn't have to like wait for them to keep coming and going. That is on the agenda today. Film a couple videos, go and return the stuff, and I'm going on Wednesday to Sterling Sound, which I'm really excited about. Meet Chris Garinger and Liz Abramson. So I want to go get some gifts for them. I want to go found out from Liz that Chris likes tequila. So I was like, you know what, I'll get a bottle of tequila for him and a bottle of wine for her. Just to essentially continue to make an impression. All right, well, shout out to Best Buy who just put $200 back in my pocket. Appreciate you guys very much. Hey Siri, call Devin on speakerphone. Oh, see, like now let's test out this. Huh, interesting. See, it just got a little darker on my face. See, now it's overexposed to my face, and now it's not. This is pretty cool. Let's talk about why I think music studios are a waste of money and a waste of time for musicians. So first off, one of the main reasons I think is because they're expensive. And when you're first starting off in your career, typically you don't have any money. So the problem that I find with that is that so often musicians can't release as much music as they want because they can't afford to. And if it costs $2,000 to release a song, well, you got to save up $2,000 every time. Where as opposed to, if this leads into the second point, I think a massive benefit of not going to a studio is the fact that you learn how to record yourself. You learn tech yourself. You learn how to make adjustments yourself. You learn the issues and problems that can come about yourself. Then you become a warrior, because then when you go to the studio, you know how long things should take, how to work things, how to talk and communicate with the people, but you might not even ever need to. And the benefit of that is once you have a relative cheap amount of gear, as opposed to cheap as in the sense of like just get started. Like for example, like I started recording my first album with a USB microphone that was using Rock Band. After that, I used a Yeti microphone, and then from that I went to an MXR microphone. Like I went from like a $5 microphone to a $100 microphone, and then finally, after 6 years of being in the music industry, and like 10 years of making music, I finally upgraded to like $1,000 microphone. And I had released like 70 songs with other microphones, 80 songs, 90 songs. It's only recently, since December this past year, that I upgraded to that other microphone. So now you go to the studio. Another problem is you pay by the hour. Typically you pay by the hour. It's rare that you'll pay per project. And the problem with that, though, this is a pro and con actually. There's a pro to this as well. But the con is the fact that it stifles your creativity, because not only does it stifle your creativity, one, because you only have a certain amount of time. So if you want to try new things in the studio, well, like you're paying for that, you know. It's like, whereas me, I can go and be like, let's try this synth. Let's try this synth. Let's try that guitar. Let's try this guitar. Let's add that effect. Let's take away that effect. Let's adjust this. Let's adjust that. And I don't have to worry about paying a tech for that, where you do in the studio. Now, the pro to that is that sometimes I get too caught up in it, in the sense of like I'm like spending an hour and a half trying to EQ the guitar, where if I was paying somebody, I would not, and you kind of just stick with the sound, and it kind of keeps you in the flow of creativity a bit more, and also you don't get caught up on things that might not necessarily be as important. But I hear this all the time from musicians, that they're saving up to get into the studio, and I'm like, no, spend a couple $100. It's only going to get you a couple, typical rates are somewhere between, like, on a cheap side, like $50 an hour, average is like $100 an hour. Save up 5 or 6 hours of what you would spend in a studio and get some gear. And once you have the gear, learn the process, learn how to record yourself. You'll have full control. And then maybe one day you either collab with a studio or you go to a studio, if you're trying to get some stuff done. But I don't know, man. I really think that, because I like I said, kind of going back to the thing, I hear a lot of artists that are saying, oh, I haven't released any songs recently because I'm saving up to go to the studio. Well, like, if you had your own gear and your own little mini studio, you wouldn't have to save up. You could, do it yourself, and you could release more music. And I also think it leads to artists getting discouraged really easily. This is actually a big point, mainly because I think that artists spend $2,000 on their first acoustic track, or EP, spend $5,000 on an EP, if not more, brand new, so nobody knows about them or their music or anything, so nobody listens, so barely gets streams. And now they're like, well, I spent $5,000 to get 14 plays on Spotify, and they're like, this is a complete waste of time and money. It's really easy to get discouraged. Where like the only cost to entry once you make your first purchases of gear are like your yearly subscription to like DistroKid. Link down below, you can save 7% on your first year subscription. No, but for real, like I use DistroKid and I can release as much music as I want through them. So that's the only cost I have related to music. Where like if I wanted to go in the studio, every time I wanted to record, I'd have to do a new thing. And it's like, you have to book the studio. So what if you want to release a track? Like for example, this week, I want to try and release a track on Friday. It's already Monday. Like I'd have to find a time that would book, that the studio would be available, and they would have availability. And if they don't, well then I can't. But because I have my own studio, I can go in at any time. I can go in at 8 o'clock in the morning. I can go at midnight. I can go at 4 o'clock. I can go at 2 o'clock. And I think that musicians really, with this day and age where gear is relatively cheap, I think you're doing yourself a disservice by not learning it. And maybe if there's something special about going to a studio, like the benefit would be like you get, people that are really, really, really talented. But if you're not a good musician to start off with, in the sense of like, but this is another thing too, and I'm kind of just ranting here. I genuinely believe this stuff though, like, especially if you're just starting off, you're probably not, just like me, not that great when you started off. So your timing's gonna be terrible, and your skills aren't gonna be totally where they should be yet. And you're gonna go spend all this money, and the sound might not be that great because you're not that great of a musician yet, and that's okay because you're going to grow into it. 2, people might not be hearing it because you're just starting off. And 3, this is really important, like if you're just starting off and you're relatively new, like your timing might be not that great, or your vocals might not be that great. And what that leads to is needing multiple takes for things. For example, when I was recording my first album, there was this song on it, on the album Once, called Perfect Enough for Me, and the guitar part on it had 97 takes for this one section. This took 96 wrong mistakes to get the right one. So it's like, are you gonna really sit there for 2 hours and do 97 takes in a studio when there's pressure from the guys watching you, or you paying money? And like, probably not. So now you're stuck with a not so great take. So I don't know, that's my rant why I think that studios are overrated for musicians. All right, so as you saw, we just got ourselves, I got Liz a bottle of wine, I got Chris a mezcal or a tequila. The reason I'm showing you this isn't to be like, oh, look at me getting these gifts. No, it's like, I want you guys to copy me. If you want, I'm laying the roadmap, so if you want to, when you just follow what I follow, if you want similar results. I like documenting the process, and I want to show up with a gift and be like, hey man, I just want to thank you again for the time. Here's a gift. Bada bing, badoom. Make yourself memorable. Make them not be able to forget you. There's a fine line though. You don't want to be weird. So just, want to be giving, and but just don't be weird about it. And you also don't want them to think that you're gonna like ask for something in return. So just be like, hey, just want to say thank you again. Here's a bottle of tequila. Here's a bottle of wine. Thank you again. It's been a pleasure. Just don't. I don't know. Make yourself unforgettable.
I know that I'm different. That's never gonna change. I hope that you will love me if I always stay the same.